welcome. My name is Alonda Carter, and I am the Recovering Hunbot. And this is Season 1, Episode 3 of Hey Hun, You Woke Up. This broadcast is available on YouTube in video format and also on 10 different podcast platforms, including Spotify and Stitcher. Before we get started, I have a shout out to give to some new patrons. Thank you so much for joining my Patreon. I've created 3 tiers that are all very reasonable, ranging from $1 to $10 a month. A big thank you to ASMR Patterns and Dave Vaughan at the Buffalo Bayou level, and Joseph Hassan and Lawrence Group at the Braze Bayou level. Thank you so much for your patronage. If you'd like to become a patron, there is a link to my Patreon in the description, and literally any amount helps. Please keep in mind while you are listening, watching, whatever you're doing, that Dave is not in the U.S. He is overseas where he is teaching, and sometimes the connection gets a little bit wonky. So I just want you to be aware of that. Now I'll sit back and enjoy what Dave has to share with us. Welcome back, Dave. Thank you so much for joining me again, and we can continue this. So this is part 2 of our original discussion, and we ended with your volcano. So go ahead and give us like a quick overview of what that was in case anybody did not see that part or doesn't remember it.
Sure. So the volcano sort of came to me as a concept that someone had just sort of made as a passing remark on Facebook. I dug into it a little bit more, and I didn't want to just treat it as a passing remark. And I found some interesting mechanisms that could be used to describe the inner workings that happen with an MLM. So you obviously have the sort of chamber of fluid, which is kind of that sort of mixture of gases and molten rock. That's the product. Like that's what most people think is the danger within volcanoes. That's the kind of the source of what drives the profit. But in fact, really what's happening there is you have tectonic plates that are shifting in towards each other that are causing greater pressure, which is ultimately going to cause that volcano to explode. Those tectonic plates that are shifting in are the recruits that you're sort of making part of the whole system, right? So it's sort of this disguised sort of reasoning as to what's happening within MLM in order to drive that profit up or towards the people. When it erupts, a volcano explodes and rocks fly everywhere. It's similar in fashion to what you typically see in the top layer of most pyramids. People stay there for quite some time, but then they often have new ideas or exciting new opportunities that are going to put them higher in other pyramids. So they eject from the pyramid and get involved in some other sort of scheme. The smoke that comes out of the volcano is obviously the thing that affects the most number of people, and you can sort of look at that as being all of the first-party scientific studies that come out of these research centers that are completely sort of they're really sort of targeting that our product is the best product in the world, and it's going to change everything for everyone, so you need to start using it. And also the deceptive income claim. So the fact that you can make 6-figure incomes in 2 to 3 years, or have a passive source of income that's going to save you for the rest of your life, so you don't have to do the 45-year plan that most other schmucks are stuck doing. Within the volcano system as well, you also have kind of the secondary plumes, so the secondary pyramids that sort of build off of there. So these are like the people who are coming in and saying like, I have a brand new idea that you can use this system within this MLM in order to guarantee yourself income that's different than the path that they're telling you to do. So people are sort of building their own profit centers off of this MLM scheme. So I found it was interesting in that way to look at it. It doesn't cover everything, and it still has that sort of same basic pyramid scheme shape. So it's a bit more technical, but for those who have been involved in the industry a little bit longer, it can sort of describe some of those more unique aspects that happen within it.
It definitely makes sense to me, especially like the break off part, because as I was, trying to crack that nut of Beachbody and, thought everything was great if I could just find the right system. And so there were these break off things of coaching opportunities, just all this stuff that I ran around all over the world trying to, implement what they said, right. And it didn't work,
Yeah. No, it certainly is discouraging. So that's one way to look at it. What I do want to transition to now, though, is the more common way, and using the term pyramid scheme to look at it. So I'll transition to a screen share, and we can pick up from there.
Sounds good.
All right. So that was the volcano. When we talk about the pyramid model, Robert Fitzpatrick is a key figure that is important to sort of discuss. I know that you'll be talking to him if you haven't already talked to him already when this video airs, but he is arguably one of the people who has done the most work in this area that's still around today. John M. Taylor, I think, was a big sort of inspirational force for Robert Fitzpatrick in terms of putting in the time and effort into these projects, and he's certainly sort of taken up that hold of continuing to sort of focus on this area. So he is managing pyramidschemealert.org, and he also has a forthcoming book called Ponzi-nomics, which I think most people who, if you're watching this video, you should also pick this one up because it goes through a lot of the history of MLM and what sort of made it possible. He's got an incredible mind for being able to describe this complex sort of situation that had to unfold in order for this industry to become what it is. And he describes, to my understanding, I haven't read it myself, but to my understanding, he's going to describe many of these sort of things that made it possible, specifically as it relates to the government being involved and possibly not sort of fully doing their due diligence. So definitely check it out. He typically discusses in his work, which again, he's going to be able to give it far more justice than anything I can do, but he discusses endless chain of recruitment, which is this concept that in order for the pyramid to survive, you need to keep finding more and more people in order to make it thrive. And what ends up happening is you get caught in this churning cycle of like it doesn't really grow the pyramid at all, but you just have a constant influx of new recruits and old recruits dropping out. And it sort of thrives on this situation when it runs out of market potential or new market potential in other countries or releasing new products. They can't really find the sort of chain progression that they would need in order to expand the base of the pyramid. So they just keep on sort of chasing after new groups of people to just sort of replace the ones that are leaving. There is obviously, as you go through this, people are learning about this experience. The hope is, it is common within MLM for people to transition to another MLM just because you do have that hope that it was just that product that I was selling, or it was just those people that I was working with, but they didn't understand what I was doing. And that's understandable because of the sort of ambition that they instill in you when you attend these meetings or when you first get exposed to this idea. So you do have the sense that you could try another one. But Robert does like to sort of emphasize and sort of illustrate using simple mathematics that there is a limitation to the expansion of these pyramids. So depending on the factor of expansion, you're sort of limited to ultimately like 22 layers of growth for a 2-factor expansion or 16, I believe it is, for a 6-factor expansion. So you're not going to get many levels deep if you fill up all of those levels, which isn't typically happening, which is, again, one of the reasons why I would like to sort of examine this pyramid model, because it does offer a lot of insight, but perhaps it's imperfect in using it as a term. If not only because when we talk about pyramid schemes with people who seem to be in them, they have an awareness in terms of handling that conversation that puts them in control of that conversation because they have an exactly established way of speaking about it. So we can throw them off their game in terms of being able to approach them with a concern on a new term, then perhaps it's going to put us in a position where we can then sort of help educate people on the concerns that we have with that situation. Because again, this term has been around for a long time. What I want to do is, because it's such a well-established structure, I thought it was worthwhile going through a basic economic model. Within economic models, it's very important to lay out your assumptions first. I haven't done a great deal of doing that here. I'll try to go through it the best I can. For people that are in these organizations, they're not going to have to pay $1,000 a month to be a part of them. That's just not feasible. The whole point of MLM is that it's very low risk. I didn't set it up so it's time is equal to 1 month at a time. I just set time as a non-unit variable. In this case, you can think about time equaling 1 being, say, 10 months. So you're only expected to spend about $100 within the business each month, and that $100 activates your eligibility for commissions. The way that this model is set up is I wanted to make it as simple as possible. So I set up a commission pot. So that $1,000 that everyone pays in, there's a 10% commission that sits on top of that then gets redistributed around the people who are involved in the scheme. The top third of the pyramid, so depending on the number of people in it, the level top third will get 2/3 of the commission pot, and then those in the middle tiers will get 1/3 of the commission pot, leaving the ones at the bottom with no commission, which is typically what you're seeing. I mean, if you look at the income statements, you have well over 60% of those within the pyramid typically not making any income at all, and typically just losing the investment that they're trying to make in order to sort of recover that. So I tried to sort of model this after what I was seeing and try to establish that kind of system and mechanism just to sort of be able to explain what's going on. Because again, Robert does a very good job of sort of illustrating this simply with mathematics, but I thought that there was even a deeper story to tell here when you put money into the system. So I kind of wanted to describe what was happening there. So within this system, everyone is perfect. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. So when I recruit 3 friends, they're going to go out by the next time period and recruit those next 3 friends. And those next 3 friends are going to pay $1,000 just like they're supposed to. Within economics, it's possible to sort of model people who are not going to do those decisions as perfectly as you would like them to. But that gets into complicated formulas, which I admittedly would not do perfectly. I would need to do PhD studies in economics to do that well. And also, I feel it would lose, it's already quite complicated, but it would also lose the attention of many people that I would be trying to sort of illustrate it to. So I didn't want to go that technical with it. The only technical thing that I added in here was I wanted to make sure that if you're at the top of these pyramids, that you're sort of an elite class, like you're a special kind of person who's involved in this organization. You don't want everyone just easily leaping up into this top tier. So you wanted to make it more elite. So I did something in economics, and I think business also uses the term, I made the middle tier sticky. Sticky being the fact that it's difficult for you to move up beyond this rank or beyond this level. So the middle tier requires that the bottom tier must have the same number of groups in it as the middle tier in order for the top person in that middle tier to move up. So I'll show you what I mean as I go through the model, but that's just a basic description of what it means. So when you look at it in time 1, everyone's paying their $1,000, so you have $13,000 being paid in, and there's a $1,300 pot of commission, right? Because that 10% that they're getting from that 1,000 is then being redistributed through the people involved in the organization. The middle gets paid $144 when it's split up among those 3 people, which amounts to a $866 loss. And those at the top still lose as well. These percentages represent the total size of the network. So this would just be 1 divided by 13, because there's 13 people here. There's 1 person at the top. They represent 7.69% of the whole pyramid. I wanted to track that because I wanted to illustrate how this number is decreasing as you grow the pyramid. So the ones that are successful are actually shrinking in size relative to the whole organization. You fast forward to time 2, so this is now at the end of 20 months inside the organization, if you like. The 3 people that they first got involved are still losing money, but the person who got them involved in the first place is now making a profit. They're making $1,666 in profit. Not a ton of money in 10 months, but measurable. Like it seems to show that there's potential here. I have a thunderstorm inside now. Excellent. At least I hope that's a thunderstorm. I did hear rain, so I'm not too worried. The middle tier pays $1,000 and gets $111 back from it. So again, they're still operating at a loss, even a bigger loss than they were before, right? Because just the way that this is being redistributed. And there's still not enough money in the entire system for them to be recovering that loss. In time 3, you still have the same situation where the first 3 people that were recruited from that top person, they're still not making money. But they're losing a little bit less now. They're only at a loss of $664 for this period. They're in the middle bracket with the same 9 people that they had joined before, and you have 81 people joining the network now. So that makes a total of 121 people inside the network, which is a total product commission pot of 12,100. So that gets split up. The person at the top is now making $7,000 in profit every 10 months, and you have 3 people and the 9 people below them making a loss of $664. These people at the bottom they've lost their $1,000. And the people that are in the 27 group, they've lost $2,000 now because they entered in the previous period. So what you're going to see now is there are 2 groups in the bottom and 2 groups in the middle. In the next period, this group of 3 people is going to be able to move up into the top 2. That's what the sticky assumption was. It needed to wait until the same number of groups in the bottom tier equaled the same number of groups in the middle tier for the top group in the middle to move up. So what we'll see there is that now these 3 people are making a profit. Right? They represent 1.1% of the whole network inside the pyramid, and they're making a $2,033 profit across the 10 months. So now 40 months in the business. There's still a very sizable chunk of the organization that's not making any money and is in fact operating at losses. I didn't add any value into the actual product in this sort of organization. Within that, like when you start adding values to the product, then you can start adding consumer decisions, like the decision to remain or leave the organization. And again, that would be a little bit too technical for this, but at the same time, I wanted to make sure that it remains simple. So you can add in the value of the product, and you can just, when you get to the last slide, you can add in those amounts, saying like, oh well, this is a $1,000 product. I assume that they're going to get $500 of value from this product, so that's there. Alonda?
Yes.
Is my sound's okay?
Yeah, you cut out there for a moment.
Okay, I saw the unstable internet connection, so I just wanted to check.
Good.
All right, let me go back, sorry. In this time period 5, everything is pretty much staying the same. You don't have much movement going around, but you do see the shrinking in the percentage of the overall network, because now you see that there's a sizable number of people that are required in the bottom tier. And now those people at the top are making a large profit every 10 months, right? So this is where you now start getting people making those millions of dollars out of these organizations. So again, like this model is not really illustrating those sizable incomes yet, because it's a rather slow growth model. If you look at it as 10-month periods, it's going to take a rather long time for it to expand. But again, that has to do with the variables that I put into this model. If you adjust those variables, which many of these MLMs do. They adjust their compensation systems so they're perfected in a way for them to still sort of create this sensation around wanting to achieve that level of success, but at the same time giving a great deal of rewards to those who have entered early or have grown the largest size of organization. And you see that in time period 9 and 10. I didn't show time period 9. I drew it out on my paper, but in time period 9, what you see happening is that the middle tier actually becomes profitable because the bottom has grown to such a significant size. So relatively, they are rather insignificant to the number of people that are caught in the bottom. What this illustrates is that those people that have been in the business for, say, 70 months, you can show that they can find success in that time. And this progression towards success can grow longer over the time period of the pyramid. So that as the business exists longer, it's reasonable to find that the people who stand up on the stage and say, it only took me 2 to 3 years to get where I'm at and you can be the same as me, they might not know that they're lying to you, but it is evident to suggest that they are not telling you the truth. That is not what's going to happen, because it's not mathematically possible within many of these systems for it to produce the same results of someone who entered earlier than you in the same amount of time. Specifically, if you follow exactly the pattern of performance that they had. So it's difficult to sort of see that on a level where when you just look at the compensation structure, it's obvious. And I wanted to try to whittle it down as simple as I could to sort of show that, like, the gestation period for success actually expands as you extend the life of the pyramid. This chart that's on the side here beside the image, it sort of gives you a breakdown of over the lifetime of this organization, how much money did these people lose? And as you see, like the losses, which are at the bottom, are not huge. Like it's common throughout MLM. You don't have people losing $150,000 when they invest into the organization. It can happen. There are people that have lost a significant amount of money, but typically what you have happening is that you have a large number of people losing a marginal amount of their overall annual income. And that's made up for in the fact that you have these like 27 people now making $1 million over the course of their involvement in the organization. And they're the ones that are highlighted. They're the ones that are championed as successful. So this group 3 would be the 9 people. Over the course of their involvement, they made $1,090,000 or $91,000. So they made a sizable profit. So they made 4% of the overall profit within the organization, but they represent 0.0034% of the people that are involved in this organization. So this chart is meant to sort of illustrate all of those numbers that are operating. And then this is the amount of money that's made by the group, this column.
I will add into here, because I think this is very interesting. I think it illustrates what happens very well. I mean, I think it's best to try to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
Start adding in the other factors, for instance, like those break-off things, because these people at the bottom, they're running around like what I did and joining this and doing all these other things where that money is not going directly into this organization, but it's going into, I liken the whole pyramid scheme, multi-level marketing scheme, whatever you want to call it, as like an umbrella. So MLM is just the top of the umbrella, and everything else is fitting up underneath it. And those
right.
break-off things are kind of like the fringe of the umbrella.
Right.
And that's where people are going to those things, losing more money because they're investing in ways in an attempt to rise to the top.
Right. Yes. Because normally in an organization, that's what you need to do. Like other organizations are typically based on the fact that you need to find your way in order to sort of operate that shows that you are performing better than other people, and that performance will typically highlight you to be able to be eligible for higher positions. It doesn't work like that within MLM. And sure, there's a possibility that you might be able to attract new potential people below you if you can show those results. But at the same time, it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to do that, especially within the rule system that's set up within these organizations. They don't want you attracting people from other people's teams. It is very sort of, it is against the policy, and arguably it should be, because the way that these systems are set up, you don't want to make it more predatory than it already is. So it's a, yeah,
I would
it's a
argue
very,
it becomes predatory. These other things are preying on the Huns at the lower ranks.
yes.
You know, and a lot of them, like you already said, they've already been through an MLM. They've already, conquered the pyramid, and are now teaching people their system, which is different than what you learn within the organization, but at the same time, it still doesn't work.
Yeah. It just, they're trying to give you another new simple shortcut that doesn't work. And if they get enough people to try it, they can get a few successes that make it possible to then sell it to more people. And I mean, that is also how a business can operate as well. But in the same fashion, that business is not requiring that you need to find other people to also buy those products in order for you to be successful in that business. It's not requiring, not buy those products, but go into that business and then sell those same products that you're selling to other people that they then need to find that will sell those products as well. In any other business, that's not happening, and that is like the crucial point that makes this whole system dysfunction compared to when you're talking about other companies like Walmart or Nike or Arby's. Like it doesn't work like those at all. And many people have difficulty understanding that, including those in stock investments, or they also just don't care. Like they're just like, oh, this is a money-making opportunity for them.
Yeah.
Certainly, like it is fundamentally different, and many people don't see that.
I had some Huns, and one of the things that people don't realize, like on YouTube, because as a creator, there are words that I have that are, if you use that word, your comment is hidden, and
okay.
that's very intentional, because I don't want the waters muddied. I'm not here to debate you. I'm here to inform other people.
Mm-hmm.
But now I forgot what I was going to say. Crap.
That's okay.
What were you just saying?
I was just talking about, now I need to remember this, because I was fascinated by that idea of hiding comments. I didn't realize that happened before. I was talking about, oh goodness.
So we both had brain farts. That's okay.
Yes.
But I did have, anyway, go on, and it may come back to me, and we'll just.
Okay. That basically covers the main principles of this organization. Honestly, what you typically see within an MLM company is you don't have these flat rate progressions. You don't have it expanding symmetrically throughout the pyramid and everyone doing their job every level of the organization. So the risk of saturation globally is not that large, but the risk of local saturation is. And the amount of money that you can see going into these organizations, like look at the bottom tier, you have the $177,147,000 being pumped in at that lower tier. In terms of retail volume for the country, that's not a lot. Like MLMs typically take up like 1% of the entire retail sales volume within a country. But what that ignores is the fact that there are 180,000 people inside of an organization that are operating in that country, right? You don't have that with Walmart. You have like maybe 12,000 employees within, I actually have a true number. I should pull it up, but the number of their employees that are selling their products are so insignificant compared to what you see within MLMs, compared to the retail sales that they make. Like Walmart as their per distributor revenue is huge compared to what you see within MLM, and that's not surprising. But the point to be made there is the fact that they're able to move so much volume from each of their staff members, and MLM is not. It's basically just covering the sales requirements of each of their distributors.
I remembered what I was going to say.
Good.
Because like I said, there are things that you can do. Just because somebody makes a comment doesn't mean that comment needs to be shown. Yeah. Depending on the language that is used, depending on what the point is made. Anyway, I had someone make a comment, and within it they said it's actually a very smart business model, but this was also someone who was at the very top. Of course, it's going to seem smart to you.
Right. Yes. Yeah. No, because it's all working out for you. You're in this 0.01% of the people that are making that huge amount of money. Yes.
And this entire thing that you're talking about, I think this would also apply to paid affiliate opportunities, because there are a lot of things out there where people are, and I got caught up in that too when I was trying to crack the nut, of like you're paying in to be an affiliate, but you're running around all over the place selling the same thing that your next door neighbor is. It ends up being like the same thing.
Right.
It's a different name.
Yeah. Yeah. And within affiliate marketing, you still have the multi-level sort of payback scheme in the sense that you have like 7 levels of pay tiers that you can get to, or is it typically restricted?
Well, okay, I will not say I'm an affiliate marketing expert, but typically, with an affiliate marketing opportunity, you do not pay to join. You don't pay to play, so to speak. For instance, I'm an affiliate for TubeBuddy, and there's always a link to that in my description.
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
And if somebody happens to get it, great. But a paid affiliate opportunity is different because it's giving you the false sense that you can then start selling this everywhere. I could, let's just say that someone like, I'll just use Roberto Blake. Roberto Blake is fairly decent on YouTube in terms of his audience size. He can be an affiliate of something and somebody can buy it, but he has that influence. And to me, MLM goes back to influence, affiliate marketing goes back to influence. And if you're at the bottom and you don't have that influence, it doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to be able to have that success of anybody participating until you do have that influence.
Yeah, then I imagine it's very similar to the one organization that I've been following a lot is Market America. I see the connection status. I'll try to wait it out. Is that better? There's the one organization that I've been following quite regularly is called Market America, and they typically call their distributors unfranchised owners, and they like to compare their business to franchises. And when you're talking about franchises, when you sign up for a franchise, it's very regulated. Like the information that you have to be given in order to start your franchise, you have to know how many people are in the local market that are going to be able to access your products that you're selling. So when McDonald's is opening up a new branch, they do a market assessment from McDonald's that they then give to that franchise owner, so they know what is the potential for me to actually do well in this business. When you enter an MLM, my understanding, I haven't done it myself, so I haven't signed the contracts, but the people that I've talked to, they basically just sign up on the basis that like, oh, this is a great opportunity. People have talked me into it. I don't need to see any of the like back end numbers. And my understanding is that no one actually has those back end numbers to really give you. Like they can give you sort of like a general idea of like, oh yeah, there's like about 3,000 people within the country that have done this, so you're getting in early. Like they'll tell you those numbers, but again, I don't know how much credibility there is behind a lot of those numbers. So I feel like it would be important to make that difference. If you're an influencer and you're getting in at the bottom and you actually do have that difference that you can make, it will make a big difference. But even if you're like a really good influencer entering at the bottom of the pyramid, that might mean nothing, because many of the people that you're influencing could already be sort of captured by not only this organization, but the 2,000 other organizations that are operating under the same sort of structure that are also offering similar opportunities. So yeah, there's many reasons why people aren't being successful in this, and I don't think it's very straightforward for them. For many people, they just treat it like an investment decision, and it's not that. There's a very sort of like structured way for you to be able to be successful in this. But
well, that goes back to, you know, me wanting to dig into the dark side of MLM, coercive persuasion, undue influence, all of these things that are going on that people don't really think about or realize. And I think it was my first conversation with Robert where he wasn't using those words, but, you know, we were talking about it. And the more that I have been into it, you know, I'm, of course, reading more and finding more information. And that's where my interest lies, are these, you know, insidious things that are insidious mental traps that are going on underneath the surface.
Definitely. Yeah, it is a fascinating topic. Like, I've been teaching AP psychology to some of my students as well, and the bias training that I go through with them, it's uncomfortable talking about it, knowing that I know people that are going through this situation, and that it's not easy to help them identify that. Like, it's very difficult, and then typically it's a defensive response that you get back. It's like, well, no, how do you know that you're not in a cult? Like, you believe that I'm in a cult, so obviously you must have the problem, because I know all these people that don't think I'm in a cult. So it's a difficult water to navigate.
And then it ends up being a fallacious art, you know, fallacies are thrown and it's ad hominem arguments. Like, okay.
It's very difficult to hold that conversation. And there was someone else I was talking to that was saying, like, he tries not to touch that subject. He wants to focus more on the legal aspect of it. And I'm sort of the opinion that it's good that there are those different types of people approaching this differently. Because I think that there's a very important social argument that needs to be built around this concept of the fact that these are very sort of insidious, as you've used, factories of control and influence in people's lives. And we need to understand that dynamic that's at play. And I think that that's a really good way to engage a social audience in this conversation. But at the same point, in order for the government to then get involved, you can't go to them and say, like, oh, my friend doesn't talk to me anymore. Can you make them talk to me? Like, the government's not going to be able to make a regulation around that kind of concept. So it's important that we do pursue those other legal avenues where legislation currently does exist, to sort of pursue that angle of addressing this problem. So.
Yeah, I agree, because there's so many prongs to this. You can't focus. I mean, there can be people that focus on one prong, and then some, you know, other people that focus on another, because you can't do all of it. You can find your own niche to focus on and zero in on that, and allow other people to. But I'm really glad that there are people starting to look at this more critically.
Yes, certainly. Yes, and it's good that there are qualified professionals as well getting involved in the arena, for sure. I want to finish off with this analysis or conversation about possibly changing the vocabulary that we use within pyramid selling concerns, to talk about the iceberg model. The iceberg model was something, again, that Jonathan Taylor brought up in his work. I particularly like this example, because as I was reading his work, I was sort of visualizing myself in different sort of areas of perspective around the iceberg. So I was sort of imagining it from my current perspective of being able to sort of like swim in the water outside of the iceberg, and being able to look up at this large sort of structure that was before me, sitting above the water, right? Being sort of impressed by its size, right? Which is a lot of people who sort of look at MLM in the sense like, wow, these people have amazing cars, amazing lifestyles. They can travel the world. They can work from their laptops in Bali or the Bahamas. So there's that attractive quality to it. But like, if you're knowledgeable of it, you can sort of put your head up below the water and see that there's an entirely massive organization below that where people don't see the light of day. Like they're not getting that experience that the people at the top that are having that. And there's an option for them to get there, like similar to the models that I just illustrated within the pyramid structure. If you're able to sort of attach more ice cubes underneath the surface of the iceberg, that will allow it to sort of be a little bit more buoyant at the top, which is going to allow it to raise up a little bit, right? So you do have that kind of, like, it's not just the people at the very top that are making money. You do have potential for those that got in at the right moments, or were able to grow the right size organization, that they can be successful as well, or quote unquote successful, in the sense that they have a mass of large organization below them that they're now drawing their revenues from. So it's good in that way, from being that outsider perspective of showing it. But also, if you think about it, if you were actually inside of this iceberg, and say it's like a glass kind of structure, and you're looking from the inside of it, and the sun rays are sort of coming down. If you're underneath the water, I've never been inside an iceberg, and I don't imagine many people have had that experience either, but like, I would imagine that the sunlight would be reflected around within that iceberg, and you would see rainbows, and it would just be this sort of like sensational, like almost heavenly image that you would be seeing, and you'd be sort of captivated by the sort of the impressiveness of that that feature, that you wouldn't really be thinking about where you are in that organization. It's just the fact that you're all sort of experiencing this same visualization together. And it was sort of this encapsulation that kind of interests me. We were just talking about cults. It's kind of that idea of like, wow, like this is an impressive thing, and no one really understands it unless they get inside it. Like, I can't tell you the number of people that I've tried to approach with this concern, and sort of laying out all the data and metrics and just all the like hard facts about how this just doesn't work. And they say, you just haven't tried it yourself. You need to come to one of these meetings. You need to see it yourself. And I'm like, it's not going to make a difference for me, but I understand why you think it does, because many people don't do a ton of extensive, like 8-month-long research on one company before they get involved. It's just unheard of. You do a little bit of research, and then you go to it, and yes, you can be persuaded, because the tactics that they use are persuadable, especially if you're not aware of them.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that you have like the little arrow here that says distributors encouraged to live the life they dream of, not the life they live right now, which to me, this really echoes the law of attraction, which is definitely used within MLM. And very much so, that you are to, think of your future self, and just, dream boards. There's so many different things going on to keep you within the dream, the illusion alive,
Mm-hmm. Certainly. It brings to mind that I forget her name. She's living in Australia. She does a podcast called That's a Cult. And she did a segment on MLMs as well, but she also did one on attractive, sorry, what's the term again? I always think
law of attraction.
Law of attraction, yes, sorry. She did a podcast episode on law of attraction. And it was very interesting for me to hear as well, because I sort of went through the same evolution that she did in her journey of like, I don't believe in this. Like, why would anyone believe in this? But at the same time, she sort of got to the end of it being like, well, where am I to sort of judge that people believe in this? And if it's not doing them any harm, then I shouldn't have a problem with it. And I agree with that completely. But when it's put into a model like MLMs, and it's meant to sort of instill a comfort in the fact that you are not getting anything from this opportunity, then that's a problem. then it becomes that the law of attraction is being weaponized against people, and that's where people should not be comfortable with it. So.
Yeah, I'm actually going to have a guest come on and speak about law of attraction, and the cult he was involved in. They did shadow work. I can't remember what he calls it, but as I hear him talk about it, I think about like the journaling exercises that I started doing, and which was all keeping you trapped within, this idea.
Right. Yes, keeping you busy as well. Like you don't have the time to sit down and do your budget statements because you got to do these other exercises that they want you to do that sort of completely separate you from that. Like Robert Kiyosaki's exercises as well that he gets people to do. Like I understand that maybe there's some educational value there, but at the same time, it seems to be distracting from the more simple things that people can be doing to sort of better understand their position within the business, but it's trying to not get them to do
Yeah.
that.
It's distracting you from reality.
Yeah.
So yeah.
This model, I haven't built any sort of mathematics around it, but even visually, it better represents the realities of many MLMs. They typically do form more of a diamond shape in the sense that there are certain links that expand in certain ways that they don't make a nice fancy iceberg type shape. But looking at some of the structures that I've seen, there was actually one founder who posted on Instagram you couldn't read the names, but you could at least get a sense of the structure, and it looked very similar to this kind of design. He was sort of outlining the fact that this person had built an entire organization, and I guess that they had to do some restructuring because they had, I believe that they had passed away. But like the fact that he was posting that online, it was so fascinating for me that they just don't see a problem with that. They don't see a sense that like this is kind of building a case against them. But what have you? For me, it better captures some of the ideas within pyramid schemes, and if you say to someone that they're in an iceberg scheme, I feel like that there's not really a scripted response to that. So it puts you in the position where then I now have the ability to describe to you what the concerns are within this model, and you don't necessarily have the easy sort of comebacks to offer.
Well, really, I mean, the comebacks that they really have is I can remember being taught this. What's a pyramid scheme? Just to play dumb. And it's like, oh, good gravy. I mean, just these different things. And I see it over and over and over again on social media. It's this
Right.
thing being perpetuated.
Yeah.
But, I just hope you do find the world of anti-MLM and are able to wake up out of the dream.
Yeah. No, there is that hope. And I mean, the more people that are added to these groups and organizations, it's growing that potential as well. So we can maintain that hope. It's a slow burn, but I think it's making a real difference. So we got to keep it up.
Oh yeah, I'm not stopping. That's for sure.
Yes, I have noticed that about you. So that's very good.
So it just fuels me to keep going. It's like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. If I kind of irritate someone a bit, I'm like, okay, I'm doing the right thing.
Yes, totally. I've had very similar feelings, and I think that anyone who's watching this should be encouraged not to step outside their comfort zone too much and just sort of make that decision before they sort of put their toe in the water to be public about this kind of information. But when they get there, know that they're not alone, that there are other people within this community that are also interested in sort of sharing the voice that they're trying to share. And we're trying to be as supportive of one another in the different avenues that we're taking to approach this. But also beyond that, kind of when you get that first sort of scare, try to sort of really check in with yourself and sort of see where your comfort level is. Don't just let it completely drive you away from doing this. Kind of do that check. I don't think it's right for me to tell you to keep going with it, because you need to make sure that this is the right thing for you when that does happen. But I think it doesn't just mean one thing when you get that first sort of scare that like, oh, they're paying attention to me. Oh, this is really bad now it's being taken seriously. I think it's important to do that check.
Well, I will add to it. It's like, it is a little bit like I know I'm taken aback a bit, like if there is something that is unpleasant and, recently of having a video again not being shown in a particular country, it's like, okay, whatever, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, I was victimized by the MLM and everything that associated with it. I'm not going to be further victimized by somebody attempting to bully me and shut me down from speaking out against what is happening to thousands upon thousands of people. I will still continue to talk about it because I think it's important to talk about. And those critics, those people that are saying that, basically, oh, I just must have, failed, or I didn't work hard, whatever they say, you're welcome in my community once you wake up. But you need to come up out of that slumber, because you really, and I can remember being so into it that there were things that were happening, and I was on attack mode myself. That's what you're trained to do.
Right.
But then when it's kind of like when you see it, you see it. You can't unsee what is actually happening once you finally do. But not everyone is able to wake up.
Yeah. It's going to be hard to show me on video at the moment right now. We had our regular power out. There it comes. Now back on. Talking to a few academics, and they've said very similar things as well. Like the moment that they better understood the system of MLMs, they've tried to sort of step away and work on other projects, but it's just so hard to not do something about this, like to not have it be something that affects you, because that weight of knowing that there's millions of people that are in this organization, and that they're in a position that you were in at one point, or that you knew someone that was in at one point, right? It's so hard to just be like, okay, it's done. you have to, you feel compelled to stay in it, and I sympathize with those people that share those feelings, because you and I are both in that, and yeah, hopefully some real difference is made. And I think it's powerful that you're talking to a lot of important people on your channel, and I do want to wish you the best of luck, and maybe we can wrap things up here, but I do hope to stay in touch and hopefully maybe appear again.
Oh, absolutely. I actually was going to say the iceberg model, I would love to see you do some math around it, because I think that would be important to show in addition. I am not as good with math. I mean, I will use a calculator and come up with the wrong answer. I suck at math, I admit it. But I think it's important to be able to share those numbers and show you, because numbers don't lie,
Yeah.
They tell you a lot. And so I think that we really need to consider, how can we further illustrate this in a way to help people understand. And maybe they don't understand today, but maybe in 6 months, maybe in 2 weeks, maybe there will be something that will snap and they'll wake up.
And I'm totally open to the fact and humble to the idea that I didn't explain this very well, but there's someone else who might watch this and they might have a much better way of explaining it. And I say, go for it. Like if you want me to give you any of the stuff that I worked on to sort of give you a head start, I'm very happy to share that as well. Because I mean, ultimately, this isn't my baby that I'm trying to build. This is something that I want to sort of expose some of the concerns that I'm building within this, and I hope someone else can take it and run with it. I'm not worried about copyright or anything like that in this. I want this problem to not be something that people have to deal with in the future. So.
I think you've done an excellent job, and I told you I was going to do a video on the social function of reciprocity within multi-level marketing.
Yes.
And, I'm building kind of a model around it. And I think whatever my first video is, it's not going to be something like, well, this is set in stone. It's kind of like, these are the ways that I'm thinking about it, and I'm trying to mold it. And I guess it's my think aloud to the world, so that maybe help someone understand it and within that context.
Right. Yeah, that being open to criticism in this kind of thing, I think is important, because MLMs are not, and if we be the same as them, then I think that we're not helping some of the bigger problems. So as long as we're open to hearing those responses, which I am, but I never get the true feedback on that. So if anyone's watching this and does see major problems, please let me know, because I would want to fix them. So thank you again, Melinda, for having me on.
Thank you for being here, and I appreciate it, and I would love to have you back on the channel. So
excellent.
have an amazing.
I'll get to work.
Sounds good. All right, I will talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Dave as much as I did, and I hope that it did shed some light on the overall issue with multi-level marketing. If you like this type of content, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and make sure you also hit the notification bell and give this video a thumbs up. By doing any type of engagement, it really does help my content go out more, so more people can see it and also learn about the perils of multi-level marketing. And remember, change starts now.